So we just left one of the chutzes of Geghard.
Chutz means
Cells, the monastic
monastic
cells.
cell.
That's where the monks used to, or the hermits would be living here. It's a huge, really kind of a symphony complex of
the monastic
cells.
complex. Yeah.
And we are in Geghard, the monastery of Geghard, which is also called Vank because it's in the Geghard. It's
Vank,
yeah.
is cave.
Yeah.
So,
So
Vank
because it
is the monastery of the caves.
Yeah, because it was dug into the.
Dug into the rock behind us.
Yeah,
So if
and
you
then-
look behind us,
Yeah.
you don't see much here, but inside
There's cells
they
of-
carved out the monastery
Yeah.
from the top down, rather than building it. They carved it out of the rock.
And they say it goes back to the 4th century, St. Gregory.
So
It's
the
associated
tradition
with it.
is that it goes back to the 4th century. Popularly, it's called Geghard. Geghard, which means
The spear.
the spear, the lance.
Yeah, lens.
And the tradition is that the lance that pierced Christ's side was brought here
Yeah.
from the 1st century, from Jesus' time, and it's an etchmiadzin. So
And then it was, that's what it was called Geghard, but then it was made popular by Saag Bartev, the Catholic, wasn't it?
But I would say from the 11th to 13th centuries, that was really the high time for this monastery. And you can see when you look around here, you see caves all around. And these were little caves where there were monks that were praying. And that's what we want to talk about today.
Indeed. Well, we came to Geghard to invite our friends to be in this place of prayer and meditation as we prepare to enter Great Lent, the most sacred spiritual season of our church.
Right.
And we thought we'll talk about what Great Lent is, and of course focusing on prayer, which is one of the main pillars of Great Lent. Well, if we may, before delving into prayer, let's talk about Great Lent. It's a season of self-examination, spiritual reflection. I call it a spiritual cruise that we take annually to kind of re-examine our journey of Christian faith as Armenian Christians. And it has 3 pillars, as we said, prayer, fasting, and, almsgiving or, good deeds.
We talk about fasting. For Great Lent takes on, for us, it's become just the time of fasting. That's what we talk about. That's what we think about.
Yeah.
People ask us questions. But really, as important, I think arguably more important, is prayer and almsgiving, good works.
Yes. And unfortunately and sadly, I think, fasting is associated with diet.
Right.
It becomes just what you eat and what you don't eat. Fasting is supposed to be, restricting our fleshly pleasures and enjoyments and focusing more on our spiritual needs. I mean, we go to doctors, we exercise every day, we go to the gym to make sure that our bodies are in good shape. But what do we do? Parallelly to make sure our spirits are in good shape, and that's what fasting is, to stop our focus on our fleshly desires and entertainments and joyful things that the body enjoys, and focus on what our spirit enjoys, which is prayer.
One of our teachers many years ago at St. Vladimir Seminary, God rest his soul, Father Tom Hopko.
Oh, indeed.
He used to say that Great Lent, so it's 40 days of Great Lent, 365 days of the year. So Great Lent is our annual tithe, right? Our 10% that we give to the Lord. Of course, the Lord wants all of us, but at least we have a season that's just dedicated to, as you say, our spiritual health.
Indeed. So really, it's not basically or mainly, it's not just what you eat and what you don't eat, which is important. But if you're a vegetarian, giving up meat and hamburger doesn't mean anything. So you have to choose, I think, whatever is something that you feel your body is not enslaved to, but kind of attracted to, and is controlling your life as a Christian Armenian man or woman. And you have to then restrict your access to these things for 40 days, enabling your spirit to kind of guide your body and take over the journey.
It's also time of preparation. In the ancient Christianity, early Christianity, of course the Armenians were there, it was a time of preparation for baptism. When Christianity, when the Christian faith was new, it was something new. You had adults who were baptized, especially to convert their lives, to change the whole course of their lives in faithfulness to Jesus Christ, the Son of God. And so there was a period of preparation, literally, coursework. We have the textbooks, some of the early writers in Armenian and other traditions as well,
Indeed.
where they would study. They would study the scriptures. They would study about prayer. They would study about what it means to be a Christian. And so preparation to become a Christian at baptism, and then preparation for Easter.
Indeed.
Right? Easter was the day of baptism originally.
And that's how, if I'm not mistaken, this is your department, but that's how this whole kind of public 40 days of fasting became popular, because the community wanted to join the newly converts who wants to be baptized, and because they were required to fast before baptism, so the community then started joining.
Yeah, there are various theories. There are a lot of questions yet about that very early period, but that's certainly a part of it. So in any case, the origins are good, and it's good for us to revive this. For many, Lent is a time that they're accustomed to. They certainly make changes. For others, it's something new, and we want to sort of invite people to consider,
absolutely,
some kind of a discipline during Great Lent.
Absolutely, and since we said we're in a historic shrine of prayer and meditation and spiritual renewal, let's focus on prayer now.
I think it's very important.
I always start my talks about prayer by quotation from St. Gregory of Nareg. So really, for us, for some people, unfortunately, prayer is memorizing certain things, and you have to utter them as if there's a requirement, and once you utter that prayer, you've done your duty, and that's it. With some of them, even with not understanding what they're saying, they have to say the Hail Mer, whatever, and they have to make the sign of the cross, but without understanding. But then St. Gregory reminds us, really, prayer is a spiritual dialogue with God, and from the bottom of our heart, from the depths of our heart, from the depths of our heart, talking to God.
Right. And that first part is so important, because, as you said, we become accustomed to just reciting memorized prayers, and that's a good thing.
Of course it is.
The Lord told us, gave us the words to pray, and we should pray those words of the Lord's Prayer. Absolutely. But it's also so important that we have time in our lives, in our daily lives, that we really try to enter the depths of our soul and really speak to the Lord what's in the depths of our soul. It doesn't have to have many words, feelings, sentiments. It doesn't have to be all happiness. Sometimes tears, as St. Gregory teaches us, are a part of our prayer, and the Lord is pleased to receive whatever we have in our hearts to offer Him. Sometimes anger. It can be requests, but not all prayer is about asking God for things, although that's an important part of prayer. But I think going to the depths of our soul is maybe step one, and it's hard.
And
it's not easy.
I think parallel with that step comes also the realization that there is a living God who listens to us. So it's not like a mechanical computer, AI, whatever, generated statement we make and then we disappear. Once you say ichorot, you express the depth of your heart to your lover, to your wife, to your husband, to your parents,
your father,
to your children, parents. To your father. In this case, we're coming to our Heavenly Father, and we have to realize that there's a living, eternally loving and caring God who I dare say, with the words of Father Hapko, I dare say is eager to hear from us. So prayer is that moment where we designate, in that period we designate in time, to talk from depth of our heart to a living Father who is eager to hear from us.
Let me ask you this. Some people are accustomed to praying. They have their routines. They have their ways of praying. Some people set aside a time every day, and they truly have built a habit. They know what it means from the depths of my heart. What would you say to those for whom maybe this Lent, they realize, gosh, I've never really entered into that level of depth of opening my heart? How do I start? How do I start during this Great Lent, if I wanted to try, what would you say?
Well, first of all, really, as I said earlier, we have to realize that there's a God who is eager to hear from us. So something as I always say, it's as simple as saying, God, I want to talk to you. Help me express myself. And as the psalm says, please humble your divine status and
your ears. Turn your ears to me
and listen to me, a sinful man. I mean, just to pray about prayer. Yeah. If you haven't prayed, if you have, Lord, I am 24 years old. I've never prayed to you, and tonight I come on bended knees. I kneel or I sit back in a moment of reflection, and I ask you, please help me to pray to you, to talk to you. And imagine a son going to his father saying, Dad, I need to talk to you. That's I'm sure the father will be in ecstasy. He'll stop everything and say, please come, let's sit down, and talk. So I think prayer really, as Geghard says, just to making the point of trying to communicate with God. Then I would urge to really designate a sacred time and place in our life. It's very important. We're timely and space-bound creation, and we do need to return part of this back to God. So designate, something as simple as when you first wake up, after you brush your teeth or whatever, and then you kneel. Why not? You kneel and you pray.
Those physical,
at the end.
Let's call them adjuncts,
yes.
Right? Whether it's kneeling, whether it's making the cross, whether it's maybe holding out our hands, looking up, looking down, closing our eyes. These can help us a lot to pray.
Of course.
And again, prayer doesn't have to have a lot of words. Prayer can be simply closing your eyes, addressing ourselves to the one God, and sort of finding peace with God. Even, I would dare say now, let's be honest, there are people that are uncomfortable doing that. They have not had the opportunity, they haven't had the courage or the teacher or the role model to lead them into a life of prayer. And I hope that some of those people are listening to us.
I hope so.
And you just start. You don't need to read a book.
No.
The Bible is helpful, very, very much helpful. There's a lot about prayer, in the New Testament.
Indeed, yes. But our Lord always constantly reminds us of the importance of prayer, its communication with God. I have a modern example about that, if I may say. I always liken our prayer to a mobile phone communicating with a server. And I say, an iPhone 16 Pro Max may be very important,
I think we're up to 17, 18.
I don't know. But really, an iPhone doesn't serve much if it's not connected with its source, if there's no Wi-Fi. And prayer really is, if I may use a modern terminology, prayer is the Wi-Fi, is our communication with God. It's very important, and the New Testament and the Old Testament have always emphasized, because that's our connection with God, with the source of our life, of our eternity, and we do need. And in this matter, if I may add, maybe we have to say memorizing some prayers is also important, because that's how our fathers prayed, our mothers prayed thousands of years, and why not repeat this? When I read the Psalms, for example, I get excited and really inspired, because I remember 3,000 years ago people used these words to address God. So it's important to do that as well.
And we have 150 of them if we want to pray the Psalms. One of them may not, and they have different themes. Some of them are warrior psalms. They're not may not meet your particular needs.
Sure.
Others are psalms simply of joy. Others are psalms of desperate pleading for help. I would urge people to flip through the Psalms and find a psalm or even a part of a psalm that speaks to you, even a verse, and read that, and maybe that can lead you, inspire you to go into the depths of your own heart. How do these words connect with me? How do they reverberate, in my own life, given my own circumstances right now, today?
And the book of Psalm, as you mentioned, Spazan, is a good example of prayer. It's really a book of prayer. But we must add that it also includes psalms of complaint to God.
Yes.
Why am I here? Why am I feeling lonely? Why I cry? I feel like you don't listen to me.
And very bold.
So, very bold. So it's also to say these things in our prayers. Why not, if this is the first time you're praying because you're very angry at God because things happen in your life, why not say that to God? Lord, I'm very angry because these things happened in my life, and I cannot reconcile these things in my heart and mind with the concept of the existence of God, who is almighty and powerful. So the book of Psalms gives us good examples of various kinds of prayers.
And if nothing else, during this season of Lent, as we look around us, this is a place of quiet, and it's a place for 1,000 years and more. Armenian monks, probably nuns as well at certain times, have come here and they've hidden themselves away and they've just been quiet with God. And just silence with the Lord is yet another kind of prayer. And if nothing else, these are our ancestors. And I would like to believe that some of their DNA, and if not spiritual DNA, at the very least, very much within us.
Yes,
so we should be able to form, to improve, to grow in our prayer, or even to begin prayer, if that's something that we haven't had an opportunity to do in our lives now. And let that be the spirit of this 2025 Lenten season. Yeah.
Well, Lent starts in 2 days. Tomorrow is Pumparegentan. We hope to edit this video today and publish it today if we can. So, as I say again, it's a spiritual cruise, so welcome on board. We're preparing for departure. It's a very exciting spiritual journey for 40 days, followed by Holy Week. Please think about these 3 pillars that Bishop Daniel and I shared with you. Your prayer life, the fasting discipline, and of course, almsgiving, helping causes that are
kindness, just being
kind itself,
being patient with people.
That's almsgiving itself, and design your own. I mean, the Armenian Church gives us an example or a model to emulate, but you design your whatever you think is the best for you, that kind of matches or agrees with the church traditions, and know that 2 bishops in the Holy of Holies in Holy Echmiadzin will be praying for you during this journey.
We're praying for you, and we're praying for our little humble ministry.
Indeed, and you pray for us as well.
Please,
I mean, it's a season for prayer and for reflection, and hopefully we'll come back to you within a week or 2 with another subject. And don't forget to send us your suggestions and ideas if you have anything. We'll be happy to put them back in an answer in a session.
And I would love to go inside and pray with you.
Absolutely, let's do that. We'll invite our faithful to come with us.
God bless you.
Yeah.
By the way, the weather will warm.